maybe I'll just say anyone who's doing the most.
Good morning. We're introducing a new piece today.
Good morning.
So don't be surprised if you don't know it. We want to bring it to you. It's called Born Again Unitarian. I happen to be a born Unitarian. My father was a Unitarian minister and my mother came from a UU church. They had already merged. But a lot of people here have found UUism, and that's where Born Again Unitarian comes in.
Yes, I'm born again. I am born again, Unitarian.
I say no, no, indeed. I don't want no creed. I don't need no capable. I've got 7 principles. I am born again. Yes, I'm born again. I am born again, Unitarian. I am born again. Yes, I must insist. I am born again, Universalist. I will do no wrong, but with all my might. For the 7 principles, I will fight the moral fight. I am born again. Yes, I must insist. I am born again, Universalist. We will congregate. We will do some good. We will work together in the neighborhood. We don't need a church or a synagogue or a temple or a mosque or a website or a blog. We will congregate. Yes, we'll do some good. We will work together in the neighborhood. We are born again and we're doubly blessed. Unitarian, Universalist. We don't need a cross. We don't need a sword. With a chalice and a flame, we will spread the sacred word. We are born again and we're doubly blessed. Unitarian, Universalist. Thank you.
I'm just saying we might need a website.
Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Tara Sowers, she, her, and I will be your worship associate today. The theme of this month is joy, and it is also Palm Sunday. Together today, we will explore the power of community and righteous, loving action versus the power of fear, cruelty, and coercion. In my reflections, I will discuss how we can find moments of joy in these challenging times. If we have any new folks with us today, we're so happy you're here. We will have a welcome circle after the service over to your left. If you are new or returning to us after being away a long time and you're comfortable standing, please stand up or wave so that we can acknowledge you and greet you after the service. And I would also like to acknowledge Doug, our new member coordinator. Doug, can you stand up? Doug will be facilitating our welcome circle. And if there's anyone else who's planning to facilitate the welcome circle, you can also stand up so we can acknowledge you or wave. Great. Thank you. And now let's extend a welcome to our online viewers. We can't see them, but they can see us, so please wave to the camera and say hello. We have trained pastoral care associates who can offer a listening ear. This Sunday, April 13th, 2025, pastoral care will be provided by Lisa Benign in the sanctuary. Is Lisa here? Thank you, Lisa. And Joyce Donahue online. Joyce will also monitor the YouTube chat during the service and facilitate the after-service Zoom meeting there for those online. And Lisa and Joyce will be responsible for pastoral care for the remainder of the week. If you are looking for someone who can help you, please contact Lay Pastoral Care Group at any time at pastoralcare@vuu.org. And I wanted to mention something about Caring Neighbors. Caring Neighbors is an amazing gift to this community. This is one of the many ways that VUU members support and assist each other when someone in our congregation gets sick or has surgery or loses a loved one or has any other need for support. You can help out by offering to prepare a meal, give someone a ride, send a get well card, or just be there for someone in your community in whatever way is right for you. They can be reached at caringneighbors@vuu.org. And now we will light our chalice. Won't you join me in the chalice lighting words? We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice. In 2016, the 14th Dalai Lama wrote a book in collaboration with Archbishop Desmond Tutu entitled The Book of Joy, Lasting Happiness in a Changing World. The content of the book was created when Desmond Tutu visited the Dalai Lama in his home in Dharamsala, India, where they celebrated the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday and shared thoughts and conversations on the topic of how to find joy in the face of life's inevitable tragedies and hardships. In this book, the Dalai Lama says, quote, "We create most of our suffering, so it should be logical that we also have the ability to create more joy. It simply depends on the attitudes, perspectives, and reactions we bring to situations and to our relationships with other people. When it comes to personal happiness, there is a lot that we as individuals can do. 3 factors that seem to have the greatest influence on increasing our happiness are our ability to reframe our situation more positively, our ability to experience gratitude, and our choice to be kind and generous. When you show compassion, when you show caring, when you show love to others, do things for others, in a wonderful way, you have a deep joy that you can get in no other way." Unquote. Let us show love, care, and compassion for each other today as we enjoy our time in congregation together.
Please rise as you're able and join us in hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
Land morning, congregation. I am Sarah Sauter, she, her, your interim director of faith formation, and I am very tired. We had a very successful youth lock-in last night, and Doug, what are you doing here? He had the 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift. Woo! And now the story. So kiddos, if you come forward, visitors, if you're new today, you can send your kids forward to sit right down here and sit with them if you wish. Kids, come forward and show visitors how it's done. Just take a seat right down there. All right. This is a wisdom tale, and it comes from a very famous musical called Fiddler on the Roof. Actually, the tale came first, and then came the musical, but they're related. Long ago, in a small village in what is now Russia, life was hard. The villagers worked tirelessly in their fields, growing the food that sustained them. Fields that needed hoeing, fields that needed planting, fields that needed weeding, and fields that needed harvesting. The villagers awoke in the morning, worked all day, and went home tired, day after day. Laughter was scarce. They barely had a time to smile. One day, a wandering fiddler wandered into the town. He wore a tattered coat, but his face was bright with joy. Slung over his back was a well-worn fiddle, and as he stepped into the town square, he paused, tuned his instrument, and began to play. The melody was unlike anything the villagers had ever heard. It was lively, full of warmth and laughter, and seemed to wrap around each listener like a hug. At first, the villagers stopped and just watched, their brows furrowed in confusion, but pretty soon, their feet started tapping, and then they started clapping their hands, and before long, they were dancing. They were dancing in the square. The fiddler played through the night, and the villagers who hadn't smiled in years found themselves laughing and singing. And for those few hours, their worries and struggles and sadness were forgotten. When dawn broke, they begged the fiddler to stay, but the fiddler said, "I'm so sorry, friends, I cannot stay. But I leave behind something greater than my music, the reminder that joy lives in your hearts. You do not need me to find it. Sing, dance, and make music together, and you will always be able to find your way back to the joy within. Never forget, music is the path to the joy within." From that day forward, the village was transformed. The people worked as hard as before, but the lives of the people were changed. Now their days were filled with song as they sang while they worked. Their nights were filled with dancing, and most importantly, their hearts were touched with joy. Joy helped them to see the beauty where they had forgotten it existed. So with this reminder, we will move to our classes. Visitors, your children may walk with us to the education buildings on the other side of the parking lot, or they remain with you. It's your choice.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, she, they, and I am the settled minister here. I come from down the hill. I went to Prescott last night, and I returned this morning because I wanted to be in all the places all at once. We had a little congregational retreat up in the mountains, and maybe next year you'll come with us because it was really fun. Started my evening last night with a marshmallow roasted. This is a time in our service as we take a moment to center, to notice what's in our hearts and on our minds, what's in our bodies, to take deep breath. Some of you will want to light a candle for a grief or a prayer or a celebration. Or you may want to leave a note for us in our pastoral care book. There's a fountain you can add a drop of water to. There are stones and sand. So if a ritual that embodies something for you is important, this is a time when you can do that. Of course, I'll tell you, you can do that anytime you're in this space. Those things are there for you. I want to say that in the coinciding seasons of Passover and Easter, we have two religions that celebrate their core stories in ritual and worship, connected in the life of Jesus and his followers, who were themselves Jewish. And each of these sacred holidays is based on a key biblical story of suffering and deliverance. And if you're new, you might not know this, but I don't usually talk about the Bible and Sunday. But when we hit major holidays, if it's the Hebrew Bible or the New Testament, and there's something important for us to touch on as Unitarian Universalists, we do it. Now, the Christian Holy Week commemorates the death of Jesus, leading to the Easter celebration of resurrection. And in the 8 days of Passover, Jews remember and reenact the Exodus story. So I have these words from two different rabbis. The first one is Rabbi Sandy Eisenberg Sasso, and she describes the power of Passover, saying, "It's not just an ancient story. It's also our story. We too were in Egypt, and we too were freed. We are told to care for the stranger. Why? Because we were strangers in the land of Egypt. We're supposed to be concerned for the oppressed. Why? Because we were slaves in the land of Egypt." And as it is written in Exodus 12:34 in the Hebrew Bible, "So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders." And we have these words from Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. "You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry: a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready. So your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you once hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've attended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all, and infinity is calling you forth out of this birth canal into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust that what you carry will sustain you, and take the first step out the door. Now, throughout time, many have had to flee persecution and slavery, and many have had to wear God like a cloak to take a first step out of the door on their way to freedom. So let us take a moment of prayer together, whether we're lighting candles for those who had to flee or those who have given shelter and protection, for those who have left behind one home to build another, and for those who made room for them. And we'll sing.
Please remain seated and enjoy. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God out there. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. There must be a God out there. Over my head, I hear trouble in the air. Over my head, I hear trouble in the air. Over my head, I hear trouble in the air. There must be a God out there. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. There must be a God out there.
Who are we to be joyful? In her book, Daring Greatly, Brené Brown wrote, "I'd argue that joy is probably the most difficult emotion to really feel. In a culture of deep scarcity, of never feeling safe, certain, and sure enough, joy can feel like a setup. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Scarcity and fear drive foreboding joy. We're afraid that the feeling of joy won't last, or that we won't be enough, or that the transition to disappointment, or whatever is in store for us next, will be too difficult. We've learned that giving in to joy is, at best, setting ourselves up for disappointment, and at worst, inviting disaster. And we struggle with the worthiness issue. Do we deserve our joy, given our inadequacies and imperfections? What about the starving children in the war-ravaged world? Who are we to be joyful?" Unquote. These are incredibly challenging times, dark times in many ways. It can be difficult to even find our center sometimes, let alone find joy. But if we examine the true nature of joy, it is not something that we feel because there is no hardship in our lives. Joy is something we can experience amidst some of the greatest challenges we might face. To share a personal story, in 2018, I was driving home from work and an oncoming speeding motorcyclist lost control and crashed into my car. He didn't make it. That night, I sat on my couch with tears in my eyes, wondering how and why this tragedy had happened. And then, in the middle of my grief and shock, I started to simultaneously feel immense gratitude for the people in my life that are still alive, for the people I love. And I felt overcome by an excruciating mix of sorrow and joy all at once. In fact, the joy came because of the sorrow. This reminds me of a poem by Khalil Gibran in which he says, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. When you are joyous, look deep into your heart and you shall find that it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." End quote. A good life is not one that is just full of joy. It's one that is full of everything that life has to bring to us: wins, losses, joys, sorrows, light, and darkness. It is in experiencing the complexities and challenges in life that we can often truly appreciate and embrace the most joyful moments. To quote the brilliant singer and writer Nick Cave, "Joy, flighty, jumpy, startling thing that it is, often finds its true voice within its opposite. Joy exists as a bright, insistent spasm of defiance within the darkness of the world." Unquote. In these dark times, the world needs the brightness of joy. And joy isn't something that we need to just hope for. It is something we can foster, cultivate, and grow within us. For me, I find that the best way to cultivate joy is by focusing on gratitude. Gratitude for the simple, beautiful things like a brilliant Arizona sunset or the soft purr of my cat on my lap in the morning. And for the big things like having the love and support of my family and friends. What are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for? Again, Nick Cave writes, "Joy is not always a feeling that is freely bestowed upon us. Often it is something we must actively seek. In a way, joy is a decision, an action, even a practiced method of being." Unquote. So who are we to be joyful? We are the ones who stand up and fight for our rights and the rights of others. And we are joyful as we fight. We are the ones who band together and support each other through hardships. And we find joy in that connection. We are the ones who teach our children about justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity, and we find joy in those teachings. We are joyful because joy is the way forward. The cynics of the world would love for us to be joyless, to be hopeless, to be fearful. They want us to believe in scarcity, to cling to our anxiety and anger. Well, as we often sing in this congregation, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. No one is going to steal my joy. So in the words of Nick Cave, let us be the bright, insistent spasms of defiance within the darkness of the world. Let us be the joy that this world so desperately needs right now. Thank you.
Joy in the air over my head. There must be a God out there.
So I invite you to imagine that we have traveled back in time about 2,000 years. We are all in Jerusalem, perhaps having arrived to celebrate Passover in the temple with hundreds of thousands of others. And Passover for us and our families is a remembrance of a time and a place of reverence and prayer, hope and joy, of freedom from a cruel empire and enslavement. And you can feel these in the air in the anticipation of shared meals and prayers, and the reunions of families and friends who have traveled to be here and to share the rituals of remembrance and celebration. You can also feel it in the relief of shared stories and experiences, having so many arrive who know your pain and the challenges that you face. Under Roman leadership, we've faced many challenges: high taxes, Roman laws that contradict Jewish laws, and the everyday occurrences of casual oppression and degradation. Roman leaders fear your joy, fear your numbers, your gathering, and the kind of fearlessness that sometimes encourages rebellion and dissent. And in order to remind your people, us, all of us, of the power of Caesar, the army plans a military parade while you are gathered in Jerusalem. They will come in from the west with horses and weapons and bright colors meant to evince your fear and awe. You're expected to greet the entrance of the governor, Pontius Pilate, with respect and obedience and, yes, cheers. This display is meant to keep you in your place, to remind you who has power and authority. And you will do as expected because there's no way to avoid it. Now, from the east comes the antithesis of this raw display of power. Jesus and his followers have planned their own parade, antithetical to the Romans and their bold uniforms, built to withstand weapons of all kinds. The parade Jesus leads is a peaceful parade, but powerful in its rebuke of Roman violence. Instead of a war horse, Jesus arrives on a donkey, a symbol of peace. Everyone knows the story about him as he arrives, and these are swirling around you in hushed whispers and knowing nods. There are stories of healing without requiring payment, healthcare that's free. What? Stories of acceptance regardless of social status or gender. Stories of rejecting the norms of Roman society and calling out corruption. Stories that raise doubt about the godliness of Caesar and his rule. And stories that invite hope and new possibilities and solidarity between people who have found in each other a brotherhood and a common desire for change. Now, perhaps some of you are in this crowd, but you're surrounded by people you don't actually know. Maybe you're actually here by yourself. You don't have a big family, or you got separated from them. And maybe you're not sure whose stories to believe. And maybe you feel a little nervous. This guy, Jesus, he seems like kind of a risky person to follow, maybe. Now you want to believe, but you're worried about how you'll put food on the table and how you will survive day to day. And you're a little more worried about avoiding the soldiers confronting them seems like kind of a sure way to lose everything than following someone who may lead you into danger. Maybe some of you have been in a position like that. And now perhaps some of you are watching this moment surrounded by people you do know and love, people you trust and people with whom you have prayed. And you've heard the stories of Jesus, and you've talked about him together, and you've shown up here together today, and you're beginning to discern if you will leave the sidelines and join in behind them, if you'll follow his lead and take up the call for justice. And in the crowd, you are whispering to each other in excitement. And then one of you calls out, answering the cries of the protest in front of you. And suddenly, you're all crying out together, loudly proclaiming your new allegiance and your desire for change. And you're swept away from the sidelines, but you aren't worried because you know you are not alone. And you feel a sense of exhilaration and anticipation. You don't know what will happen, and while you know you're taking a risk, you can see the writing on the wall. The risk feels like an invitation and not a warning. So today, as we enter a week that is often known in the Christian world as Holy Week or Passion Week, and in Judaism, it is Passover. We enter as people who may have, some of us, left behind the Bible, the New Testament and the Hebrew Bible alike. We may have maybe never even had much interaction with these stories. But I invite us to lean into the themes that offer us some nourishment and insight today, as we grapple with political and personal challenges of our own. As a community that is called to center love and act through the lens of love, we are witnessing a time of great cruelty and power acting against our shared humanity. Yeah. The essence of Holy Week for me and for many Unitarian Universalists is the power of Jesus' love for humanity, his call to us to love each other as he has loved us, and his clarity that a government based on the power of cruelty and violence will never lead us into the kingdom of God or love, and cannot lead us into a better world or better lives. Jesus invites us to love our neighbor, and then he sets the bar very high. His example of loving our neighbors bids us to stretch our definition of who is our neighbor and bids us to reconsider what generosity and compassion and love entail. Jesus invites us to be uncomfortable, to notice the violence and harm, and to act protectively and with righteous anger, to notice hunger and poverty, and to act with abundant generosity and humility. And as a Jewish man, he also sees the story of Passover being repeated in this moment, of people being oppressed and longing for liberation. In a moment in our country in which we are facing so much cruelty and loss and greed, we must not be stuck in our own sense of shock. Jesus reminds us that it is within us to act. And perhaps we may be aware of our own complicity, even our own capacity for betrayal in our care for one another. Perhaps we may be scared. We're gathered to watch the parade, the march, the protest, but we're not sure if we have the courage or the reciprocity of community. I'm going to say that again, the reciprocity of community to step into harm's way and join. To act in solidarity, we want to know that others will be there to bail us out, to watch our children, to help with lost wages, and to tend to injuries. Do we know that we are entering into the fray with a community? Or do we feel vulnerable and alone, even amid the cries for justice that echo around us? While it's possible to act even as we feel alone, the power of shared action is the power that will sustain us through hardship and challenge, when acting alone is far riskier. So friends, let me ask each of you, how much do we love one another? How have we cared for one another, and how will we care for one another in ways that make it clear we are not alone in this moment? And also, do you feel loved by something greater than this gathering? Even if you do not name this love, do you feel held and nurtured, protected, and encouraged? I'm going to let you hold that for a moment. Several years ago, I served a congregation in Kansas where we worked with our neighbors to build a community of solidarity that spoke out against all kinds of things: police brutality, that spoke for the human rights of migrants, that demanded voting rights be protected and politicians held accountable, that upheld the human rights of queer and trans folks of many identities, that called for health care and access and affordability, that worked to protect reproductive rights and fought for reproductive justice, and that fought for unions and the rights of workers. We stayed a little busy. Now, we didn't build it overnight, and we didn't finish the work. If you read the news, Kansas still be struggling, just like us. But I knew when I showed up, I wouldn't be alone. I knew that we would keep showing up together over and over again, ready to risk together, ready to pray together, ready to care for one another. Now, we didn't always get arrested, but when we did, there was someone waiting for us to be released with food and water and songs and hugs. And we didn't always interrupt corrupt politicians, but when we did, it was with many voices and bodies. And we didn't always stand outside the doors of power and demand that they be opened, but when we did, it was always with arms linked and voices lifted. In the quiet, beyond the protest, we made meals and signs together. We learned each other's stories and planned new ways to open hearts and minds. We learned new songs and new ways to capture the imagination of our community and its leaders. We met in houses and houses of worship. We met in coffee shops and basements and parks. And honestly, sometimes we pissed each other off, y'all. And we hurt each other's feelings. We caused harm sometimes. We made real mistakes with real consequences, and sometimes we learned new ways to support each other and to disentangle ourselves from structures of harm. We made amends, and we learned to do better by one another. And when I left Kansas, the solidarity that I felt and experienced seemed to disappear a little. It was COVID, and I was suddenly alone in the crowd and unsure what I could offer. I wanted to make a difference, but I didn't know if that was possible, and I didn't know how much I could risk without those hands and hearts and voices holding me. I was also passing through a community. I wasn't rooted to a place, and I knew I wasn't staying. I did what I could, but the actions I took never felt as nourishing and vital as they had before. Maybe you felt this way before too. Between places, without a foundation of community to act from, unsure what difference you could make or what risks were worth taking. I know that I made a difference here and there, that my actions weren't singular or invisible, but I felt the loss of community and solidarity, being held both accountable and with love by others. And in the story of the Passion, Jesus has seen the larger story he is living in, the cruelty of his government, the greed that can turn someone against those they have loved and worked with. He has seen this, and he still believes that there is more love somewhere, that we are capable of acting on behalf of one another without regard to our individual gain, that we are capable of building communities where all are welcomed and included, that we can determine the difference between what is Caesar's and what is God's. And he believes that we will learn that generosity is a gift, and that those who are more worried about the costs of generosity to their reputation are themselves barriers to generosity. And I believe that too. I believe that when we love each other as we have been loved, we can withstand great calamity and destruction. We may not be unharmed, but we are whole because we are arm in arm. In this moment for us, when so much is being disappeared by our own version of Caesar, we must find a way to act in solidarity with each other, with migrants, with students who've spoken out politically, with trans and non-binary people, with Black, brown, and indigenous leaders whose legacies are being disappeared. We must be visible, generous, and bold. And this might mean different things for some of us. For some of us, this is joining a protest. For some of us, this is writing letters and making phone calls. For some of us, this is making room in our homes and opening our wallets. For some of us, this is uncomfortable conversations with family. Okay? For some of us, this is noticing where we are stuck, noticing what is keeping us from doing these things and finding a way forward anyway. And for some of us, and we know who we are, for some of this may mean enacting our own exodus, fleeing persecution and suffering to find safety and protection somewhere else. For all of us, this is tending to each other as well, doing all of these things as a community that has made a shared promise to a larger story. Last week, many of us showed up together in our own capital. We were in the crowd, and even when we couldn't see each other, when the crowd swallowed us up and we were physically separated, we knew we were together. And we could find each other too. This is my protest hat, y'all. We listened together, we chanted together, we sang together. Some of us rode together, we shared signs, we took pictures, we drank water. And even when we were in different parts of the whole metro area, I imagine each of you with your signs and your voices and your commitment to democracy, to human rights, and to a shared future. Even when I knew that some of us couldn't be there, I knew your heart was with us. What allows us to take risks together? How do we enable others to take risks and to show up in uncertain situations? In the story of Holy Week, Jesus is abandoned and even betrayed by those he loved most, which leads to his state-sanctioned murder. Jesus is criminalized for acting on behalf of love. But by Easter, we find his community has reorganized and reoriented themselves around his teachings and his vision for us. He is reborn, if not literally, most certainly in the hearts and lives of those who remember him. This transformation might have actually taken years instead of a few days, but this story gets relived every year, retold and reworked. We relive the risks of Jesus over and over as he offers an alternative vision of community for the kingdom of God, or beloved community. And there are risks he takes knowing the danger and even knowing the threat to his life. He knows he will be betrayed, but he's never truly alone because he doesn't give up on us. He believes in the promise of who we can be. Does he know that the community will eventually realize their loss and be called back to one another? I believe the answer is yes. He did know. He knows that love will find a way and will call us back together. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. He knows that what Caesar demands from us can never compete with what the kingdom of God or beloved community can offer us if we will accept it. We belong to the love that won't let us go. We name it in many different ways, but this love claims us as if it knows all of our names and holds us beyond knowing. Reverend Sophia Betancourt says that love is what we express as our highest value as Unitarian Universalists. Our pressing task now is to ask ourselves and each other how this understanding calls us forward, individually and collectively. It is a love that expects nothing less of us than the rebuilding of the struggling world. We need reminding and solidarity, connection and care, to restore what we long to hold at our own centers and to heal that which keeps us from being more loving. We need to take the necessary risks each day to answer the call of love and be the rebirthing of love itself. As Reverend Deborah Hafner writes, remembering the story of Passover, we are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land. May it be so. Friends, may it be so.
Over my head, I feel love in the air. Over my head, I feel love in the air. Over my head, I feel love in the air. There must be a God out there.
Now it's time to invite generosity. Will the ushers please come into the aisles and pass the plates? Giving to others is one of the ways to access joy in our hearts. So let's access that joy by giving generously to support the activities of this congregation. There are many ways that you can give to VUU to show your love and care and appreciation for the work that everyone does here. You can text GIVE to 480-725-4522. Or you can use the QR code on the screen, or you can go to VUU.org and click on Give. I would also encourage you to make a pledge for the year if you haven't already, an intention of the amount that is doable for you and shows your appreciation and support. You can make your pledge on our website as well. Thank you for your generosity.
Oh my soul, oh my
Each morning, when I wake up my 10-year-old daughter, up there on the screen, we have a fun little ritual where she wants to be tickled. We call it tickle alarm. Sometimes on a weekend, I go in to check on her, and I think she's still sleeping. And then as I'm walking away, I hear in a whisper, "Tickle." These moments of simple fun and connection bring me so much joy. As you go throughout the rest of your week, I encourage you to look for the little moments of joy. The smell of spring flowers outside, the warmth of a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, the smile of a friend or neighbor. Let's make it a way of being to find joy in the little things as we go about the rest of our day, the rest of our week. Joy exists here in this moment, in every moment, if we only pause to notice it and allow the joy to be revealed.
Please rise for our closing hymn, number 1051, We Are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and sons of great vision. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and lovers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Before we do our extinguishing of the chalice, I want to remind you that today we have a conversation with Valley Interfaith Project on the future of healthcare in Arizona that we want to talk about how it's in jeopardy. VIP core team is organizing with VIP partners and others, building coalitions to educate elected officials in our community about this important issue. You can join us on the patio outside the sanctuary after service if you want to be part of that conversation. We're trying to collect stories of how potential spending cuts to Medicaid and access will impact you and your family. So be part of the conversation. We need to hear from you. So help me in extinguishing the chalice with these words. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. But stay for conversation and coffee or the welcome circle on my left. Blessings.